Welcome back to the Monimate Podcast. Take a breath with me for a second. You're here because you care about stability, not noise, not hustle, not financial theater. Real clarity, real structure, real control. If this is your first time listening, hi, I'm Hope, and I have someone with me today who you're going to want to hear from regularly.
Hi, I'm Marcus. I promise I'm more fun than I sound on paper.
He actually is. Don't let the system's thinking fool you.
I contain multitudes.
He does. Okay, this show is about one thing: understanding financial pressure before it becomes panic. Every week, we break down money differently, not from a budgeting angle, from a structural one. Because when you understand timing, stress starts to lose its power. If this episode gives you clarity, pause right now and like it. Leave a comment and subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. All right, Marcus, let's get into it.
Let's go.
I want to open with a question, and I want everyone listening to answer it. Honestly, just to themselves. How many months in the last year did you make decent money and still end the month feeling like something almost went wrong?
Ooh, that's a good one to open with.
Not broke, not irresponsible, just tight in a way that didn't make sense.
That feeling has a name, and it's not bad with money.
Exactly. So let's start at the foundation. When someone earns irregularly, what is actually happening structurally that creates so much stress?
Two variables are moving at the same time: amount and timing. With a salary, both are fixed. You know the number and you know the date. With irregular income, both float. And when two variables move simultaneously, the system becomes harder to predict and harder to trust.
So the stress isn't weakness, it's a rational response to an unpredictable system.
Exactly. The nervous system is doing its job. It's detecting uncertainty. The problem is that most people respond by trying to earn more, when the actual issue is timing exposure.
Explain timing exposure.
Think of it like this. Imagine you have a bridge. Every day, trucks cross it. Some days, one truck. Some days, 5. The bridge isn't collapsing because of the total weight over a year. It's collapsing because of weight concentrated in one moment. Timing exposure is how concentrated your financial pressure is at any given point, relative to when income arrives.
And irregular earners have high timing exposure almost by default.
Yes, because they can't guarantee when income lands. They can't guarantee it lands before pressure peaks.
Let's define the stress moment precisely, because I think people need to hear this clearly.
The stress moment is not low balance. It is not a tight month overall. The stress moment is the gap between when obligations land and when income arrives. Even a 3 or 4 day gap can trigger real anxiety, because in that gap, the outcome is unknown.
And the brain hates unknown outcomes.
The brain treats uncertainty as threat. That's not a metaphor. That's neuroscience. So when income timing is unclear, the brain stays in low-level threat mode, even if the month ultimately works out fine.
So someone can have a great income month and still feel stressed for half of it.
Frequently, and then they blame themselves. They think they're bad with money or not earning enough, when actually they're just operating in a high uncertainty timing structure.
I want to sit with that for a second, because I think a lot of people listening have said that to themselves. I'm bad with money, and it may simply not be true.
In most cases, it isn't. Irregular earners are often very resourceful. They're just operating without timing clarity, and timing clarity is what produces the feeling of stability.
Let's go through the 4 forces that destabilize irregular income. Walk us through each one properly.
The first force is timing drift. This is the most common and the most underestimated. Income doesn't arrive on the same day each month. A client pays 3 days late. A platform holds a payout an extra week. A contract takes longer to close. Each delay seems small in isolation, but when your obligations are fixed to specific dates, a 5-day drift in income can shift you from comfortable to stressed.
And it compounds.
It does. because if you drift this month, you start next month slightly behind, and then a second drift stacks on top of that. Within 2 or 3 months, someone with solid annual income can be living in chronic short-term pressure.
Can you give a real example of how timing drift plays out?
Sure. Imagine someone who earns around $6,000 a month freelancing. Their bills total around $3,500. On paper, they're fine, but their income typically lands between the 8th and the 18th depending on the client. Their rent is due on the 1st, their car payment on the 5th, their insurance on the 7th. So before income even arrives, nearly $2,000 of obligations have already landed, and every month they're waiting, hoping the next payment comes before the next bill.
That story is going to sound very familiar to a lot of people listening.
I think so. And notice, the solution in that scenario is not earn more. It's shift the timing.
The second force, obligation rigidity.
Obligations don't adapt to your income schedule. Your landlord doesn't care that your biggest client pays late. Your car loan doesn't pause because a contract fell through.
Utilities are famously unsympathetic.
Genuinely one of the least emotionally available relationships in your life.
I feel that.
So when income floats and obligations don't, friction forms every single month. And that friction is felt as stress, even when the numbers ultimately work out.
The third force, compression stacking.
This is where timing drift and obligation rigidity combine. Compression stacking is when multiple obligations cluster in a short window before income arrives. Rent on the 1st, subscriptions on the 3rd, insurance on the 7th, minimum payments on the 10th, and income landing on the 15th. That 2-week gap, with 4 or 5 obligations stacked inside it, creates what feels like a crisis, even if you technically have enough money overall.
It's about the sequence.
Always. Your brain doesn't evaluate your annual income when it's stressed. It evaluates what's happening right now. And right now, 4 things are due and nothing has come in yet. That's the compression experience.
And that can feel genuinely scary.
It can feel like you're failing, when actually you're just badly sequenced.
The fourth force, recovery ambiguity.
This one is subtle, but it might be the most damaging to long-term well-being. Recovery ambiguity is the inability to clearly forecast when stability will return after a pressure moment. With a salary, after a tight week, payday is Friday. Your brain can relax because the endpoint is known. With irregular income, after a tight window, you think things will ease up when the next payment comes. But you don't know exactly when that is. So even after surviving a pressure peak, you can't fully decompress because the next one could start before you've recovered.
So the stress never fully clears.
For a lot of irregular earners, no. There's always low-level vigilance, always scanning for the next gap. And that sustained vigilance is exhausting, even if, objectively, things are going fine.
I want to push on something here, because someone listening might say, this all makes sense, but the real fix is just earning more consistently. Is that wrong?
It's not wrong. More consistent income helps, but it's incomplete as a solution. If you increase your income but your timing structure stays chaotic, you will feel more stressed, not less, because now more is at stake in each uncertainty window. I've seen people go from $3,000 a month to $8,000 a month and feel worse, because the obligations scaled with the income, but the timing clarity didn't.
So you can earn your way into more anxiety.
Very easily. Income level and income stability are 2 different measurements. Most people optimize for level. They should be optimizing for both.
Let's talk about the common mistakes irregular earners make when trying to fix this themselves.
The first mistake is treating it as a spending problem. They open a budgeting app. They categorize everything. They cut subscriptions. And then nothing feels better because the problem was never spending. It was sequencing.
The budget app can't fix a timing problem.
No. If your income lands after your bills, knowing exactly how much you spent on coffee doesn't help you.
Coffee continues to be wrongly accused.
Completely innocent. Every time.
What's the second mistake?
Borrowing to fill gaps without addressing the gap. Someone uses a credit card to cover the pressure window, tells themselves they'll pay it off when income arrives, does pay it off, and then repeats the cycle next month. They're not building stability, they're borrowing stability from next month, and the interest accumulates slowly in the background.
That's a cycle a lot of people are in without realizing it's a cycle.
It feels like managing, it's actually slow erosion.
Third mistake.
Assuming a good month fixes things. One strong income month feels like a reset, and it is, temporarily. But if the structural timing issues aren't addressed, the next drift month puts everything back under pressure. One good month buys relief. It doesn't buy stability. Those are different things.
How do you build stability?
Structurally, through three things: buffer margin, compression reduction, arrival bounding.
Let's go through each one properly.
Buffer margin is the cushion between your obligations and your available balance at any point in the month. Not your monthly income minus monthly expenses. That's an annual view. Buffer margin is a short-term view. What do you have accessible right now, relative to what's due in the next 10 days? The goal is to keep that number positive without relying on income that hasn't arrived yet.
So it's not about saving a huge emergency fund.
No, it's about maintaining a functional short-term buffer. For some people, that's $500. For others, it's $2,000. It depends on your typical obligation clustering and your timing drift. The buffer only needs to be large enough to absorb your worst realistic gap.
How do you figure out what that number is?
Look back at the last 6 months. Find the largest gap between when your bills hit and when income arrived. That's your exposure window. Your buffer should cover that window comfortably. Nothing more complex than that.
Compression reduction.
This is about actively spreading your obligations across the month so they don't all land before income does. Many due dates can be moved. Credit cards, utilities, some loan servicers will shift your due date by 10 to 15 days with a simple request. That one action, shifting a few due dates away from the start of the month, can completely change the sequencing for an irregular earner.
That's something actionable people can do this week. Like literally this week.
One phone call, done, free, structurally significant.
I love a free fix.
The best kind.
Arrival bounding.
This is the mindset shift that changes everything. Instead of planning income at the optimistic arrival date, always plan at the latest realistic arrival date. If your client usually pays between the 5th and the 12th, plan as if they're paying on the 12th, every time. If they pay earlier, that's a buffer contribution. If they pay on the 12th, you're exactly on plan. You've removed the surprise.
So you stop hoping income arrives early and start building for when it arrives late.
Right. Hope is not a financial strategy.
I walked right into that one, didn't I?
I have been waiting to say that since we started recording.
Noted. Okay. Bounded arrival assumptions are a financial strategy. Better?
Much better.
What does a stabilized version of life actually feel like for someone living this? A freelancer, a consultant, someone in sales.
They know what's happening in the next 10 days. Not perfectly, but clearly enough that the brain doesn't go into threat mode. They have a buffer that absorbs drift without triggering anxiety. And when income is delayed, they're annoyed, not panicked, because the delay is covered.
That distinction matters. Annoyed versus panicked.
That's the real measure of stability, not the absence of problems, the ability to absorb problems without going into crisis mode.
What about people whose income is wildly variable, not just irregular? Commission sales, project-based work, seasonal businesses.
Same principles, larger buffer requirement, more conservative arrival bounding. If your income can vary by 50% month to month, your buffer needs to cover 2 or 3 months of obligations, not 1. And you need to make peace with the fact that some months are funding future months. That's not failure. That's the cost of operating in a high-variance income structure.
And that cost is worth paying if the upside is there.
Usually, yes. The people who thrive in high-variance income are the ones who structurally prepare for the variance, rather than hoping every month is a good month.
See the thing. Name the thing. Then it loses power.
Clarity is the beginning of stability.
Before we close, I want to say something directly to anyone who has been grinding for months or years, feeling like no matter what they earn, something always feels off. You are not failing. You are operating in a structure that was never designed for irregular income. The tools most people use, the advice most people give, were built for salary earners. They don't map onto your reality, and that's not your fault. What you need is not motivation. You need a structure that fits how your money actually moves.
And that structure is buildable. It doesn't require a financial advisor. It doesn't require a perfect month. It requires understanding your timing exposure and reducing it one lever at a time.
Here's your stability shift for this week. Map your next 30 days. Write down every obligation that is due and when. Then write down every income source you're expecting and the latest realistic date it arrives. Look at the sequence. Find the gaps. That map will show you exactly where your stress is coming from. Most people have never done it because looking feels scary, but uncertainty is always heavier than the actual picture.
One action. This week, not someday.
If this episode landed for you, share it with one person who earns irregularly and has ever said, "I make enough, but I still feel stressed." That sentence is the exact signal this was built for.
And subscribe, because next week we go into recovery windows, the stretch after a pressure peak, the period that determines how resilient you actually are for the next one.
Recovery speed defines long-term strength.
Not income level, not savings amount, how fast you stabilize after disruption.
I'm Hope.
I'm Marcus, and I'll try to have more jokes next week.
He was actually very funny today, and he knows it.
I really was.
This is the Monimate Podcast, built on trust, powered by intelligence. See pressure early, stay in control. We'll see you next week.